The Baghdad battery is the name given to a set of 3 artifacts that were found together: a ceramic pot, a tube of copper, and a rod of iron. It was discovered in present-day Qujut Rabu, Iraq, in 1936, close to the metropolis of Ctesiphon, the capital of the Parthian, 150 BC 223 AD, and Sasanian, 224-650 AD empires, and it is believed to date from either of these periods. Similar artifacts have been found at nearby sites. Its origin and purpose remain unclear. The artifacts consist of a terracotta pot, approximately 140 mm, 6 in tall, with a 38 mm, 1.5 in, mouth containing a cylinder made of a rolled copper sheet, which houses a single iron rod. At the top, the iron rod is isolated from the copper by bitumen, with plugs or stoppers, and both rod and cylinder fit snugly inside the opening of the jar. The copper cylinder is not watertight, so if the jar were filled with a liquid, this would surround the iron rod as well. The style of the pottery is Sasanian, 224-650 AD, conforms to the style used where it was discovered. It was exposed at the National Museum of Iraq in Baghdad since the discovery for many years, publicly visible to everyone. The artifact disappeared in 2003 during the US-led invasion of Iraq. It is said that it needed to be filled with an electrolyte or acid solution to work. Wine or vinegar was usually used. Residues of these substances were found inside some battery jars. But archaeologists obtained the best performances with solutions of water and salt. Everyone knows that salt is an excellent electrolyte. The most accredited hypothesis was that the Baghdad battery was used as a galvanic cell to plate the metal and create jewels, plated, for example, with gold or silver, which, according to the knowledge of the time, should have been impossible, because in theory, no one yet knew the use of electricity, and therefore they could not know the metal plating technique. Yet several jewels plated with a very fine layer of gold or silver have been found, and these artifacts are impossible to obtain otherwise without electricity. The terracotta jar was, therefore, it is deduced, filled with some vinegar, which, when activated, would produce less than 1 volt of electricity. This would have been enough power to electroplate metals, and it is clear archaeological evidence that the ancients possessed the capability of creating electricity. Less than a volt of power is too low a voltage to light a light bulb, but perfect for plating metal. But what would happen if the jar was filled with a solution of water and sea salt, sodium chloride? In this case, the voltage produced and the battery life were much greater, sufficient to produce electricity for lighting or other uses. Another really strange thing is that during the Roman period, many workers and slaves were paid with salt instead of coins, and salt was considered very precious, more than wheat in some cases. There is even a street dedicated to salt via Salaria, which starts from Rome and arrives at the port of Ascoli on the Adriatic Sea. It was created during the 1st millennium BC and perfected by the Romans. It was mostly dedicated to the transport and trade of salt. Why dedicate so much importance to salt if it was only used to season food, and not, for example, to oil, whose production process is much more tiring, expensive, and elaborate than that of extracting and preserving sea salt? Or, for example, why not pay with wheat, a fundamental food, and dedicate a route to the transport of this very precious nutrient? Not only did the Romans pay for their work with salt, but this already happened in ancient Egypt and was a very common thing, as we can deduce from the translation of Greek manuscripts that talk about it or directly translating the ancient hieroglyphs. Why was salt so important? Yet it was not uncommon to find. Another coincidence is the similarity between the sacred Egyptian symbol Ankh and the electric oscillator invented by Nikola Tesla, for example, a sign that probably in ancient Egypt, electricity was known. Not to mention another important and sacred Egyptian symbol. The Jed symbol, strangely very similar to the plasma tower by Nikola Tesla, whose purpose was to produce free energy for everyone connecting sky and earth, is one of the most ancient and commonly found symbols in Egyptian mythology. It is a pillar-like symbol in hieroglyphics representing stability. It is associated with Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife, the underworld, and the dead. In 2012, Isa Milleno, a young professor and researcher at La Salle University, Philippines, designed the first prototype of the salt lamp, sustainable alternative lighting powered by water and salt. Electrolytes are liquids that conduct electricity, such as the salt water in the lamp. The electrolyte closes the circuit in the cell, or battery. An electrode is a piece of material that conducts electricity when it touches a non-metallic part of a circuit, that is, the salt water in the lamp. Electrodes are often metal rods, such as zinc and copper. 2 electrodes are found in the salt water lamp, one acting as an anode and one as a cathode, like you would find in a regular battery. Once the salt water is added, the circuit is closed, and the battery, or cell, can power the lamp to produce light. Colombian renewable energy startup EDENA has developed a cordless light that converts salt water into electricity as a more reliable alternative to solar lamps in off-grid communities. The portable device, called Waterlight, needs to be filled with 500 millilitres of seawater or urine in emergency situations to emit up to 45 days of light. Acting as a mini power generator, the device can also be used to charge a mobile phone or another small device via its integrated USB port.
If we think that lithium and coltan, that is to say columbite tantalite, are minerals so expensive to extract and manufacture and are limited as resources, probably we can deduce that saltwater batteries are the future. Or are we just rediscovering the past?